Round 2 of the Phoenix Festival Tournament begins with Day 1. Today we'll be going over Bracket A in both the singles category and the doubles category. The teams matches will start tomorrow, but all of the Google Forms are available in the description down below, so you guys can go and vote for who you think would win in each match of Round 2. Now, they're all going to be broken up by each day, that there'll be Bracket A, Bracket B, C, D, E, etc., so you can vote in chunks or vote all at once if you so choose. When you go and vote, make sure you pick who you think would win and give your reasoning as to why, whether it's due to experience, semblance advantage, weapons advantage, etc. Whatever the reasoning may be, a reason does have to be given for your choice. Now, moving into our first match in the singles bracket, we have Vernal versus Marrow Amon in the Forest and Ocean biomes. Now, this is actually a pretty fun match, as both of these characters have weapons that they can throw and will return to them. Marrow has his Fetch, which is a gun, but also a boomerang that, he uses in conjunction with his semblance of Stay, and then he can throw that out at opponents and it can deal damage to them, will come back, and then Vernal, using her Wind and Fire Blades, those are weapons that she can throw as well. They'll come back similar to a boomerang, but they also have Lightning Dust capabilities. So this could be a match that I could see starting off with both of them throwing their weapons at each other and it clashing mid-arena. Now, we are going to assume that, since this is round 2, all of the characters have had a chance to get a feel for their opponents, watching in Amity Arena as other matches have taken place, so Vernal might actually be familiar with Marrow's semblance if he chose to use it in round 1. And that being the case, she might dart for the Forest biome immediately, try to get out of Marrow's line of sight, and avoid his semblance, because we don't actually know if that can affect Marrow's semblance. If he can just stop people's momentum in a single direction and that's it, or if he has to be, or the character has to be in his direct line of sight. I would argue that it has to be in his direct line of sight, but we don't actually know, so that could play a factor. Also, with there being the ocean biome, if Vernal is able to either lure Marrow into the ocean biome or knock him into it, she has Lightning Dust capabilities, and we will see something reminiscent of, well, Team Sun versus Team Indigo in Volume 2, of a little bit of electrocution taking place. So I think Vernal might actually have the advantage over Marrow. She was trained by Raven Bronwyn, her right hand in the Bronwyn tribe, Marrow being the newest member of the Aesops, less experienced seemingly in Volume 7. So I'd say they're on about equal footing in experience, and the biomes kind of give the advantage to Vernal in this scenario. But I'll leave it up to you guys to decide in the voting down below. Moving on to our second match, though, we have Milsha Malachite versus Neon Cat in the Ocean and Mountain biomes. Now, Milsha is the Malachite twin that fights with the claws, and Neon is the character that we saw again in Volume 7. She fights with her nunchucks and works on her rollerblades so she can zip around the battlefield quite quickly. Now, the biomes being the Ocean and Mountain biomes are definitely not in Neon's favor for moving around very quickly. Milsha fighting with claws, both of these characters are close combat fighters. We don't actually know Neon's semblance. A lot of people were speculating that it might be, the rainbow trail that she leaves behind her, and that might be her semblance. However, it's never been confirmed by the writers or anything like that if that's what allows her to move very quickly. If she does have a speed-style semblance, we just know that she can move fairly quickly around the battlefield. But not really in this case with the biome terrain that she's in, so this would have to be more of a just close combat fight, I think, in Center Arena. And with Milsha fighting with the claws, Neon seems to have a little bit of extra reach with her nunchucks, so this would be a fairly even match. I would probably give the edge to Neon based on just the reach of her nunchucks, but I could easily see Milsha winning as well. Again, this one I'll leave up to you guys in the voting down below. Moving on to our third match, though, we have Qrow Branwen versus Sun Wukong in the Savannah and Ice biomes. Now, Qrow is much more experienced than Sun. Sun could give Qrow a little bit of run for his money. I don't see Sun winning this one, but with his gunchucks and the amount of strikes that he'd be able to hit against Qrow very quickly, I think Qrow would be taken aback a little bit by the strength and skill that this kid would have, but Qrow is just a much more skilled huntsman and I believe would take out Sun in this fight. And then we have, in match 4, Bartholomew Oobleck versus Glynda Goodwitch in the Ice and Anti-Gravity biomes. Now, Glynda, with her semblance of telekinesis, an extremely powerful semblance. However, in the biomes of Ice and Anti-Gravity, there's not really much that she can manipulate. Sure, she can manipulate the ice chunks and everything like that, but Oobleck fights with a flamethrower, so any ice that Glynda would be able to throw at Oobleck, he could just melt with his flamethrower or bash out of the way with his club, and it wouldn't be that effective. So this would be a very close match, I think. Glynda, of course, being Ozpin's right hand, we'd think would be more experienced, but Bartholomew Oobleck is an experienced huntsman in his own right, and is a teacher at Beacon Academy, so both of these I would consider on fairly even skill level. We don't know Oobleck's semblance, but probably Glynda might win if she's able to manipulate possibly Oobleck's weapon. We don't know if she's able to manipulate things with aura. Yes, she did push back RWBY in Volume 1 and manipulated a person at that point, but she hasn't done that since then. And that was Volume 1, Episode 1 on top of that. So things may have changed since then. Once aura was worked out a little bit more, we don't exactly know. So this match would be pretty close, and Oobleck might actually win this one. I'd almost give Oobleck the advantage in this one, but again, I'll leave it up to you guys in the voting down below. In our fifth match, we have May Marigold versus Yuma in the ocean and mountain biomes again. Now, May Marigold fights with the weapon that's typical of the Happy Huntresses, the staff that has blades on each end as well as a crossbow, and Yuma is the assassin from the White Fang, the winged faunus, and has the capability to fly. May Marigold also has her semblance of invisibility field, making it so that she could become invisible. Now, in the ocean biome, that wouldn't really work too well because she would make ripples in the water if she tried to walk through that even while invisible, and in the mountain biomes that doesn't really make for the best terrain while trying to walk around while invisible and use cloaking, etc. So fighting against Yuma, who can fly and have the aerial advantage, yes, May could take pot shots at him with her crossbow and everything like that, but it would most likely end up being close range, because Yuma doesn't have any long-range capabilities. May would start firing crossbow bolts at him, possibly confuse him with her invisibility, making herself invisible at certain times, dodging out of the way, etc. So this one, again, could be a fairly even match. I would give the edge to May because of her invisibility, but Yuma, taking the aerial advantage, could easily see or pinpoint where her movement is. We don't exactly know what Yuma's weapons are either, just that he's more of a hand-to-hand combat type of person, but still, this would be a fairly close match overall. I would still give the edge to May, I think, but you guys could prove me wrong in the voting. And then we get to match number 6 with Nebula Violet versus Bronze Knee in the forest and urban biomes. Now these two characters are the leaders of their respective teams. Nebula leading Team Indigo and Bronze leading the late Team Bronze. So with these characters, it pretty much comes down to weapon advantage, in my opinion. Bronze fights with his claws, and that's pretty much all he has. He is a close combat fighter, and Nebula has her weapon that is a crossbow as well as a sword. The crossbow, being the only long-range capabilities in this fight, gives her a little edge right there, and with the sword having a longer reach than Bronze's claws, well, I think Nebula just has the advantage. Now, we haven't really seen much of Bronze's fighting style, or Nebula's fighting style for that matter, though I will point out that in Before the Dawn, Nebula did best Velvet in a fight, though Velvet wasn't using her Anisadora, but using all of the different fighting styles that she had remembered with her photographic memory, so Nebula was still able to overpower Velvet in a mock battle using just random weapons that they weren't used to, so Nebula has quite a bit of skill on her. And again, we don't know really what Bronze's skill is, so I would have to give the win to Nebula in this case. And then we get to match number 7, which is Banesaw versus Roy Stallion in the forest and geyser biomes. Now, Banesaw being the White Fang lieutenant, he is a very strong character, fighting with his chainsaw blade, and Roy Stallion being the character that fights with the saw blades. So both of them have very good weapons at shredding opponents or shredding other things in the environment, etc. But Banesaw definitely has the stronger weapon, the one with the longer reach, and Roy Stallion could be disarmed by launching his saw blades outwards and having them knocked away. So I think Banesaw would end up winning over Roy just because of strength, weapon advantage. A few different factors would play into this one, but we don't know enough about Roy's fighting style, how he would fight with the saw blades other than launching them out or using them for close combat, and neither scenario really seemed that effective at dealing with Banesaw. but I'll leave that up to you guys to decide overall. And then we get to our last match in the singles category for today, which is D versus Lai Ren in the Ice and Desert Biomes. Now, Lai Ren just has greater mobility and function with his storm flowers than D with his weapon. Now, D is an experienced huntsman. He has graduated from a huntsman academy, so he does have some skill and experience in his own right. You know, it's not easy to graduate from a huntsman academy, especially going through all 4 of the years, even if he did just barely pass, but Lai Ren at this point has enough experience training with the Aesops, as well as his semblance of tranquility wouldn't really play a factor, but he just has more skill and speed and would be able to outmatch D in this fight, in my opinion. And then we get to the doubles matches of today. There are 2 we have to go over, as there are half as many as last week, with characters being eliminated. But our first match of the day is Glynda Goodwitch and Sun Wukong fighting against Coco Adel and Russell Thrush, and they are in the Desert and Geyser biomes. Now, the Desert biome kind of gives the advantage to Glynda and Sun in this fight. Sun is on home turf in Vacuo, with being mostly desert. He is from Vacuo, so this is an environment that he is used to, and it also gives a lot of ammunition to Glynda. Now, with these characters, it can't be underestimated the cohesion between the team that Coco and Russell have. Russell fighting with his short wings, he is a very close combat fighter. There does seem to be some ranged function with his pistols that he could fire dust rounds out from them, but we don't really know what they're capable of. So if he fights close range, Coco could back him up from a distance. And Coco, with her hyping up the power of her rounds from Gianduja, I wonder if Glynda could actually block those, use her telekinesis to stop their momentum, because they would be moving extremely fast and with a lot of power. So if Coco fired that weapon off, I don't think Glynda would be able to stop those bullets. She would have to dodge out of the way, possibly try to manipulate enough sand to stop those bullets, but I don't really think that that would play much of a factor. So this would be a interesting match to see. I think that Russell, he's not the most experienced huntsman. We only saw him last in Volume 3, whereas Glynda, of course, was much more experienced than him at that time, and Sun, once we saw him in Before the Dawn and in Volume 6, throughout Volume 4 and 5 as well, he just gained more experience than Russell, and he is the more experienced character in this case. Now, Coco does have a lot of experience as well, but I think that just based on experience, Glynda and Sun would win, though I could easily see Coco and Russell giving them a lot of trouble based on the amount of power that Coco has, Russell fighting close combat, keeping Sun occupied so that Coco could focus on Glynda, and Coco I could see actually overpowering Glynda's telekinesis, but this is going to be an interesting one, and I look forward to seeing how it's going to turn out. And our second match of the doubles category is Weiss Schnee and Fox Alistair versus Emerald Sustrai and Robin Hill in the Ice and Geyser biomes. Now, the Ice biome definitely gives a bit of an advantage to Weiss, as she is, well, from Atlas. She's used to using ice dust. The cold wouldn't really affect her much, but Robin is also from Atlas as well, and an experienced huntress on top of that. So Robin might be able to hold her own against Weiss. They would have to make sure that Weiss doesn't really get her summoning off, but Emerald, having her semblance of hallucinations, could definitely affect Weiss. Now, we did see how Emerald versus Fox went in a previous exhibition match, and Fox did win out over Emerald, because Emerald's illusions or her hallucinations wouldn't really work that well on Fox. He is blind, so the visual aspect of the illusions wouldn't work on him, but the sound aspects definitely would. She would be able to interfere with his hearing. Fox does use an assistive device to learn about the surroundings. It talks to him and tells him about what's around him, but if Emerald is able to, make enough noise, it could kind of overwhelm his hearing so that he can't hear clearly what this assistive device is saying. But thanks to Fox's semblance of telekinesis, he would be able to sense where Emerald's mind is, and it wouldn't really affect her that much, or affect him that much. So Emerald could focus on Weiss, using her hallucinations on her to keep her preoccupied, maybe off of summoning and, making her dust attacks miss their mark, etc. So that could be something that Emerald could use to overtake Weiss, and Robin could take on Fox. I could see that match actually being pretty even. Fox is very experienced, very skilled with his sharp retribution, and Robin, I see, could be able to take him on. Now, Fox, with a semblance of TeamSpeak, even if Weiss is under the hallucinations from Emerald, he could tell her what's going on, because he wouldn't be affected by that, or at least tell her where the opponents are located. So I think that Weiss and Fox have a slight advantage over Emerald Marigold and Robin, but with this working out in various different ways, I could easily see this one going either way on top of that. I would personally probably choose Weiss and Fox, but it will be determined by all of you who ends up winning. So this was round 1 of the Phoenix Festival tournament. Hopefully you guys enjoyed these matchups and are enjoying the tournament overall. There are many more matchups to come, so hopefully you guys will look forward to that. Again, links in the description below to all of the matches in round 2, so you guys can go and vote for who you think would win and give your reasoning as to why. Thank you so much to everyone who is participating. Let me know down in the comments who you guys think would win, what matchup was your favorite in round 2 so far in brackets A of the singles and doubles category, and I look forward to hearing your guys' thoughts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with the Phoenix Festival tournament, the other RWBY content. Join the Guild of the Eternal Flame. Tweet me at PhoenixKnight7. Join our Discord server linked in the description below as well, and I'll see you guys in the next video.